Easy now. Papa got things making headlines.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finna change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you plenty of.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael Sean Dugar. You can follow me on the tweet machine at Mike Dugar. That is MikeDugar. Still verified on there. Once again, shout out to Elon Musk. I appreciate you, brother, letting me keep my check without subscribing to Twitter Blue. Again, shout out to all our YouTube subscribers as well. Seahawks Man-to-Man is the name of the channel. That's Man-to-Man, the number 2 man. We appreciate all the love and support on there. Chris, talk to him.
What is good, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206, and that is CKid206.
All right. The draft is coming up. We're pretty much like a week away from the draft at this point. We have one more guest we wanted to get on the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast to talk about these prospects, the Seahawks, who fits, who doesn't. We've covered damn near every position, Chris, except for a couple. So we'll fill in the blanks here. With the homie who's making a return to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, we have Doug Farrar on the line. Doug, USA Today Sports Media Group NFL editor. I can't remember how many times you've been on the pod, but it's been several, so we appreciate you making a return, man. How you doing?
I think this is 4.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm nearing the end of my rookie deal with you guys. So.
And we also had him on the radio show last summer, too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we did do the hype with Chris and Mike. Appreciate you supporting us on there as well. How are you doing, Doug?
Good. Hammering away. It's just so much. And like 10 days to the draft, like, nope. Needs to be 20 because there's too much to do.
Time is definitely flying in that regard. But I do want to kick this thing off because the Seahawks last season, I think, to a lot of people, overachieved. Do you remember what you had them at finishing at, Doug, last season? Did you give them a record of 9-8? If you remember off top,
I think I had them at 5 to 6 wins.
Okay, so having them at 5 to 6 wins, they definitely overachieved in your regard as they finished 9-8. They lose to the Niners in the wild card. Based on what you thought and how they played last season and what they did, what are the next steps for this team to be the Super Bowl contender or just have a better season than they did last year?
Well, I did think they'd have one pick in the top 5 and they'd have one pick in the 20s. I did not expect that the Denver pick would be top. Didn't see that coming. Woo, boy. I've never seen regression like that from a quarterback in my life. But anyway, I read. Did you see that thing? I don't know if it's true or not. There's a picture of him apparently flipping his golf cart into a sand trap today.
I believe that's.
Has that been verified?
I think so.
Oh.
I haven't done any investigative reporting on it.
I'm not going to make any jokes about him not seeing over the middle. But
oh, man.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to do that. All good. The Seahawks, I mean, who saw this coming from Geno Smith? He played very well in the structure of the offense that Pete Carroll wanted. And I think with what happened in Denver and what happened up here with the quarterback position, I think we all owe Pete a few apologies. He's got the mea culpa hat right now. Like, yeah, I'm still me, guys. And amazing that they did as well as they did without really a functional front 7 for the most part. So when we look at draft needs, Draymond Jones, bring Bobby back. They're starting to do that. I think now it's just more of the same. Get that front 7 back together. Maybe get Tariq Woolen a nice bookend. And I have a couple ideas about that. And I know we're going to talk about corners today. But, yeah, it was really – after 5 or 6 drafts in a row that were really bad, they hit it out of the park with maybe their best draft since 2012 when they got Russ and Bobby. And, yeah, they're – Pete's, 71 now?
Yep.
He'll be 72 in September, yes.
It's amazing. 72 going on 32. And yeah, they're back. And that wasn't a fluke season. I mean, everyone just kind of went where they went, and it was a pleasant surprise.
You mentioned it wasn't a fluke season, so you are on board with Geno Smith having that same confidence and playing at the same level, if not a higher level this season, even though teams will have that 1 year of film on him and et cetera, et cetera?
I did a lot of film work on Geno during the season because it was a big story. And I think what he did is he established his ceiling is fairly high. And what he did is he just moved his floor way up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he's going to fall back. And, it wasn't like, his efficiency was not as good towards the end of the season, but that had a lot to do with protection. Cross and Lucas weren't quite as on the ball, and I expect both of them to improve. But I didn't see anything from Geno like, okay, they figured him out. I don't think he got that way, so I don't think it's a problem.
Easy money. Let's get into some draft
for
stuff.
him. Yeah, 105 was it?
Yeah, the contract I think maxes out at 105 if he basically if he plays the way he did and hits all of those markers and all the statistical benchmarks, however many yards, however many touchdowns, I think Pro Bowl again, stuff. Maybe not Pro Bowl again, but he has to basically the Seahawks structured the deal where they're like, do that again and you'll get paid.
Yeah,
don't do it again and we might not be on the team.
I have an AP vote, and when it came to comeback player of the year, it wasn't even close. Like, Geno, what did he come back from? Everything.
Right.
Yeah, I thought he was a fascinating comeback player. Not fascinating comeback player of the year winner, but you look at some of the previous winners, and not all of them were guys who had injuries. I went back and looked before he won the award. I was like, oh, there's a lot of guys who just won it after they stunk.
Yeah.
I think maybe not Phillip Rivers. He might have won it, but I think Drew Brees just won it just after just stinking. That was it.
Yeah.
It wasn't, not the year he was hurt with the shoulder or whatever. He just stunk, and then the next year he was great.
Well, Geno got his jaw broken by one of his own teammates. Come back from that and do what he did. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah,
that was with the Jets in 2015, not last year. We're not breaking news here that something weird happened.
If I was, I didn't care to write about the awards, but one thing I would have probably written if I had to defend his comeback player of the year candidacy was like coming back from being a bad high pick. That's a black quarterback. Because you usually don't get to stick, or you don't get to be like
not a lot of oxygen there. The Seahawks cut him 3 years ago. They cut him. They cut him. He was available, and they got him back, and now he's their franchise guy, and well deserved, legitimately so.
Yeah, that's very rare. Like Josh,
that's a very good point. Black quarterbacks, we say this on Jalen Hurts Day. Black quarterbacks who get tossed out of the yard, it's hard to get back over that fence. So good for him.
Yeah, kudos to Geno for beating those odds, which are statistically
considerable.
Yeah,
as we all know.
Let's get into the big question though, and it's going to be the draft. All right, with the number 5th overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks select with Doug Farrar running things. Doug, who are you taking number 5 overall and why?
If Jalen Carter is available, I'm doing it without a second thought, without a moment's hesitation. If Jalen Carter isn't available and Devon Witherspoon from Illinois that's easy. That's plug and play. Devon Witherspoon is absolutely a sit. He's a bit smaller, but he plays tall, and he has what I call match feet, which are, wherever the receiver goes, I go, and my feet lead the way. He has incredible footwork for, I believe, a 5'11" corner. Usually guys with his footwork operate in the slot, and they're smaller. The taller guys can get bewitched a little bit by sharp, angular routes, what I call the Edelman curse. He can kind of do it all, and he wants to kick your butt when he tackles you. He will come downhill, and he will start some stuff. So I would say Jalen Carter if he's there at 5. I know about the off-field stuff, and I asked Pete and John each at the Combine, why was this last draft so much better than the ones before? And John especially said, the Malik McDowell thing, we were really betting on guys with traits as opposed to guys who were solid starters and did everything right and were just in the building and did it all the way. So I know with Jalen Carter's off-field stuff, that's going to be a discussion for teams, as it has been. He's doing his visits, apparently only in the top 10. I don't get a suspicion that there's like major stuff, but the thing about Carter is he's Chris Jones, and he's not Chris Jones coming out of college. He's Chris Jones now. He can wreck an offense. He can define a defense, and that's right now. I don't use the word generational, the whole annual generational thing we get. He has the potential to be a generational defensive linemen everywhere from zero tech over right over the center to he can play edge. So, that's a guy that can be a tone setter for your entire defense. So, and he played through injury last year and just dominated on tape. I don't know about best player. I could make an argument for it. Best defensive player, absolutely no question. Teams will have a lot of discussions, as I said, the off-field stuff. And originally when that happened, and it happened, were you guys on the combine floor? We were waiting for Carter to speak, and that's when the news broke. It was like 10 minutes before his session was supposed to start, and they took the card down, and we're like, oh, crap. What just happened?
No, so I wasn't. I was at the combine though, but I was actually. This is funny. I can't say who I was speaking to, but I was actually talking to some people who work for the Seahawks at the time that the news broke, and we were like going over the details in like real time, like explain, like looking at our phones, getting texts from people, reading the updates on like what happened, what the charges are, what's going on, like in real time. In one of the hotels in Indianapolis. And it was just a fascinating thing to be like, oh shit, what's going on? Because it was like the thing, it was like being in high school and like there's that big fight that everyone's talking about, or that big, big showdown in the lunchroom or something. Like everyone was talking about it in the place we were at. So it was very fascinating. It was very weird to kind of see that news break at like 9:50 something when he was supposed to speak at like 10 a.m. or whatever it was. It was very calculated. It felt very similar to when I was at the owners' meetings. And as soon as I walked into the AFC coaches breakfast, the Lamar Jackson trade request broke right like 3 minutes before John Harbaugh was supposed to speak. It was fascinating.
So yeah, part of me when the news first broke, and I remember what Pete and John said, I'm like, there's no way they're going to take it. And I thought more and more, they are risk takers, especially in the first round. We know this. Betting on Jalen Carter's traits is not a projection. The tape just explodes with traits. And maybe they think now, we got the free agents, we got a good locker room, we got Bobby back to sort of lead things, and he's now the alpha. Maybe we can take a risk on Jalen Carter as that potentially generational talent, and we have a good enough room for it to work. Because they would bring in guys in the early 2010s, and they had Sherman, Bennett, and Red Bryant, and all these other alphas, dripping with alphas all over the locker room. Maybe they think they have the locker room to make that work. And if they do, and they take him, they wouldn't have had a defensive tackle like this since Cortez Kennedy.
Wow.
He's not Tez, because Tez was a bigger earth mover. But as I said, my confidant was Chris Jones, not Chris Jones coming out of college. Chris Jones should have been Super Bowl MVP Chris Jones. He's that good.
Yeah. Well, in the first Super Bowl, second Super Bowl.
The one when the Chiefs beat the 49ers.
Yeah. Okay.
I wrote an article the next morning in saying basically he should have been the MVP. It was like Justin Tuck in the two Super Bowls. The Giants beat the Patriots, and Eli was the MVP in both. And Justin Tuck he took over both games. I don't know what are you guys doing.
Yeah, I was going to ask why you were so confident and kind of overlooking some of the stuff. But yeah, you answered that, because that's going to be the calculus they have to do. Do we have the infrastructure and the culture and the faith to roll the dice on this guy? And I've mentioned it on the podcast a few times because it was mentioned to me at the combine, that not to overlook the financial component as well. The projected salary for a fifth pick, whoever it is about $34 million over 4 years with a $21 million signing bonus. So it's a swing in more ways than just whether he plays well and secures a roster spot. That's a lot of money to whoever they
But
pick.
if he's not a rookie, guys, he has the talent to make that per year.
Woo.
He has the talent to be the best defensive tackle in the NFL.
Can the Seahawks just draft him now at this point?
I mean, go watch tape. Go watch like 10 snaps. You tell me.
Yeah, he has been fun to watch.
Tape doesn't lie.
Yeah, he's just such a big dude who can move.
The movement skills are just insane. The other guy I like, and it would be more toward 20, would be Kalijah Cansey. And we were going to talk about sleepers. I didn't put him on my sleeper list because he's not a sleeper after the combine. He just set like records all over the place.
Right.
6 foot, I believe, 280. The Aaron Donald comps don't work. The Ed Oliver comps don't work. He reminds me of Grady Jarrett. Falcons took in the 5th round, can kick your ass anywhere from no shade to like 4-eye.
Yeah, the Seahawks had a fun experience with that.
Yeah, Grady whooped their ass this last.
Yeah.
I think that was
There you go.
or whatever. Yeah, no, it was.
Well, sometimes the guy who whips your ass is the guy you want to, try and clone on your own team. That's how that works.
That's what they've been trying to find. In like after years of playing against Calais Campbell, John Snyder was like, "We should get one of those.
Let's go get Draymond Jones." Yes, let's do.
Yes, pretty much. Yes, is what they've been.
That's good comp. That's good comp. So I would say either Witherspoon or Carter at 5. I think would be perfect.
Let's stay with Witherspoon as we transition to the cornerback position, which is one we have not discussed. Me and Chris and I haven't. We've done everything. We've talked front 7 with Deontay Lee, offensive line with the homie Nick Bumgarner, quarterbacks and tight ends with Nate Tice. I think we talked receivers with one of those guys I just mentioned, Danny Kelly, I believe. As well. So we've had I'm like draft content overload. So corner is the position we kind of have not addressed right now. I believe, Doug, if this is right, you have in some order Devon Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, and Joey Porter Jr. as your top 3 guys. What give us why you have the order that way?
Yeah, Witherspoon is 1, Gonzalez is 2, Porter is 3. Deontay Banks from Maryland is 4, best press corner in this class. Cam Smith from South Carolina is 5. He's just kind of a guy who does everything well, and we don't talk about him because it's just for some reason this comes up in my head over and over. Some positions it's good to be boring. And like tight end, it's going to be boring. Left tackle, good to be boring. Pretty much anywhere on the offensive line, if you're boring, it's okay. I think at cornerback, if you're boring, like no one talks about you, it's okay. It really is, because that means you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe you're not doing anything like hugely right. But let's talk about Witherspoon. I kept hearing from people before I watched him. I kept reading reports. Oh, he gives up a bunch of stuff deep. Like you can run on him and blah blah blah. Like no. Quarterbacks targeted Witherspoon 15 times on passes of 20 or more yards last season. He allowed 1 catch for 39 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. The opponent passer rating on deep passes last year, the opponent passer rating 0.0. Mr. Blutarski, yes.
0.0?
0.0.
Damn.
Great footwork in the short to intermediate areas. Now I remember we were talking about, the Oklahoma guy who's
Trey Brown.
We were talking about like the 17 penalties. Witherspoon gets penalized a lot. He's going to get penalized more in the NFL because he is aggressive and he is grabby. And he is pretty good with the timing of, getting his hand in when the ball's coming, getting it in the catch point and kind of disrupting. But you know how NFL refs are. They're like, what are you doing? So we'll see how that goes. I love him. I did a little old school comp. Sam Madison was with the Dolphins for a long time. 5'11", 180, but he whoop ass all day. And he just, 4 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro nominations, and he would just sew a receiver up all day. So the aggressive movement cornerback, great just overall skills. If that's what they're looking for, I think he's the guy.
And you think he's worth the 5th pick?
Yes. I would be shocked if the Seahawks don't take him. I would be shocked even though Detroit's done a lot with their secondary. They let Okuda go to Atlanta. I would be shocked if Witherspoon is there at 6 and the Lions don't take him.
Wow.
What separates Witherspoon, who, like you said, 5'11", he's 185, 4'4", 31 and a quarter inch arm. So not totally Seahawk-y in the measurables, but has some Seahawk-y traits on tape. What separates him in your mind from someone like Christian Gonzalez from Oregon or Joey Porter Jr. with the junior on his last name, making us all feel old?
Old, yeah. I remember the beef with Jeremy Stevens. I was like writing about that. Oh, God. Super Bowl 40. Let's not talk about that. Gonzalez is a very different player. If we talk about, he has the best movement skills of any cornerback in this draft. He's a ballet. I mean, he will match and transition and turn his hips, and he's always where he needs to be. I think if he had Witherspoon's aggression to the ball, he might be the best player in this class. But he's more of an artist than an aggressor. He's more a technician than a guy who just wants to beat you up. And that's okay. I don't know how Seahawk-y it is, because they like aggressive corners. We know this. My comp for him was Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. What I wrote is there's a little Sherm in Gonzalez's game that he defends every deep fade with a curiosity that any quarterback would try such a thing. You guys remember when people would throw deep fades on Sherm, we'd all just go, what? Gonzalez had, if you throw deep against it to the boundary against him, it won't work. He has a smoothness to his game that's unusual for his size, but he doesn't have Sherm's obvious desire to physically embarrass his opponent. Rodgers-Cromartie was really tough for receivers to shake, but he wasn't going to push you around and sort of get in your head and start to defeat you mentally. He was just going to erase you. You just weren't going to be there. That's how they're different. I mean, I could say Witherspoon is 1 and Gonzalez is 1A. Some people might like Gonzalez more. I have a preference toward aggression and movement skills in the same guy. You don't see it a lot. When you see both, it's like, okay, let's go. Him. Go get him.
What about Joey Porter? I know Joey's not projected to be a top 10 guy, but 6'2", 34-inch arms, which he has
a bigger wingspan than Peter Skoronski, who could be the first tackle off the board. That's insane. I mean, Skoronski's kind of a stubby guy. I think he's going to be a good guard. But, yeah, we don't see his wingspan, 80 and 7 days. Yeah, 97th percentile wingspan, 98th percentile arm length, 95th percentile hand size, which is kind of nuts.
Kawhi Leonard on the football
field? Yeah. Well, I do a pod with Greg Cosell. Greg said basically he's Giannis. He just, one of these. Nope. Just tumble your ass. He is a natural press corner. He's a natural man corner. He can break off and it's not just deep stuff. He can break off in short crossers. I watched his 2021 tape and he would struggle a bit in those transitional things. He's getting better at it. You can see that he puts in the work. And I think 1 to 2 years down the road, he could be even better still, which kind of reminds me of what I think of Tariq Woolen. So they're stylistically, play style, what it looks like on the field, it's not dissimilar. My comp for him, come on, I wrote a lot about him, was J.C. Horn. If you've seen J.C. Horn play, that's what he is.
Yeah, J.C.
Long armed, just a big, like one of those bugs in Starship Troopers. Just,
I think Jason picked off Geno twice, didn't he? I know he picked off Geno once.
I'm pretty sure you're right. Yeah, he had a great game against the Seahawks.
Yes, I usually like when my NFL comps, which I work on them a lot. I like to go back, but I'm watching him like, well, he's J.C. Horn. I don't have to overcomplicate this. Just move on. He also projects well to me as a Seahawk player in that they have not had issues. Sherm, Brandon Browner, Tariq, they'll take the taller guys. They'll, the long, gangly, whatever. Maybe the shorter, quicker receivers get you once in a while, but everything else you're just on lock. So he would also be very Seahawk-y to me.
Last season, the Seahawks played a lot of different coverages: cover 6, cover 2, cover 4. How would some of these young guys coming in, how do you think they would fare being thrown all these different coverages? Because playing cover 3 and dropping back is pretty simple, but you also sometimes you want to creep up. You see someone in the flat, not realizing, your linebacker are supposed to have that underneath. You need to be deep third. So with all that being said, who would be the best fit, I guess is my question, for the Seahawks based on what the Seahawks are going to do coverage-wise this season?
Well, cover 3 is simple, but that's the problem if you're a cornerback. If you make any little tiny mistake or you're in the wrong place, you can just get waxed. So Porter and Deonte Banks from Maryland, who I also like. Banks, as I said, best press corner in this class, reminds me of Jamel Dean. If you want a guy who can play multiple coverages, I'll give you a few names based on I don't have the stats in front of me, like who played the best against cover 3. I'm going to work on that later. Cam Smith from South Carolina just does everything well. Okay. Clark Phillips III from Utah. Smaller guy, not as small as Trey Tomlinson, who we're going to talk about. DJ Turner from Michigan is a speed freak. That shows up on tape. He is not quite as aggressive, but it's just hard to get away from him because he goes from this to that, wherever it is, in like 0.0 seconds. So he's impressive in that regard. I like Clark Phillips a lot. 5'9", 184. Man coverage last year, he allowed 11 catches on 28 targets for 145 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. But he's also an island corner. So he can work at cover 1 and cover 3 last season, led the nation in interceptions with 5, allowing 15 catches on 29 targets for 156 yards, 1 touchdown. And he's not just a slot guy, even at that size. So Cam Smith, if we're talking multi-coverage guys, Witherspoon, yes. Gonzalez, absolutely. Cam Smith, yes. Clark Phillips, very much yes. Those would be the guys I would think would be, if they're looking to really diversify their approach in man versus zone, and we can talk about Julian Love and what that means. That to me signifies a move to too high, because both he and Diggs can, play deep through it all day. If they want to get even more into the Fangio stuff, which that is, I think any of those 4 guys would be great.
Okay.
Just to clear up something real quick, J.C. Horn only had 1 interception against the Seahawks. I believe the other one was called back. He didn't get his foot in. I knew he had caught a couple passes from Geno, and also to mention DJ Turner. To quantify the speed there, he ran 4.26 at the combine, by the way.
And it shows up on the field. We always have to differentiate that. Sometimes we don't. With him, we don't. It shows up on the field.
That's blazing.
No, that is insanely fast at 5'11" and 178. Yeah, ran. So
there are plays where he's like, they're playing, third hat, and he will go all the way across the field and defend a pass. We're like, okay, I see you over there.
That's special speed right there. Honestly, that's Tariq Woolen's speed, except Tariq's, which is just puts in perspective how absurd it is that Tariq can run the way he can. I'm personally not a big day one cornerback guy for the Seahawks in this class, just because of how many other needs they have, urgent needs. I would say as well. Like, put in perspective, at the time we're recording this podcast, the Seahawks have cut Gerard Hewitt, meaning. I'm about to rattle off the list of interior defensive linemen that they have. Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, Myles Adams. That's the list. That is 3 bodies. Damn the talent for a second. That's just 3 bodies, and you can't do that.
And Draymond Jones really is more of a hybrid inside-outside guy.
Right. Yeah. So he'll play some 5, play some 3. I don't think he'll play much nose. Jaron's the only guy they'll have that can play.
Jaron can play 1 tech all day. But you're kind of wasting your money if you put Jones there a lot. Yeah.
So I think they have just some more urgent needs there. But there are some day 2 guys that I think me and Chris are going to stand on the table for. Mine is Darius Rush, South Carolina. Yeah. And then Chris, would I be accurate to say one of yours would be Julius Brents from K-State?
Yeah, you saw that. Yeah. Doing another show, but yes.
Yeah, if Doug, if you had to choose between one of those 2 guys, if we're like, Doug, just please, we need a day 2 corner, and it's got to be one of those 2. Which way would you lean?
I'm going down to Brent's, and what about him? By the way, Calais Ringo I have as my CB10. I do not like his tape.
Really? Not a Ringo. He's been a low-key fascinating prospect.
Not a fan.
There was some mocks in November and stuff that had him as a top 10 lock. And he seems to have only just slid.
And then the rest of the season happened, and oops. Julius Brent, 6'2" and 3/4, 198, 96th percentile height, 99th percentile wingspan, 98th percentile arm length. My comp for him, Jermaine Johnson. I'm stealing this one from Lance Zierlein because it makes too much sense. Hi, Lance, over at NFL.com. Johnson used his size, 6'2", 213, and ball skills to put up a few dominant NFL seasons for the Rams and Jets. He also saw time in the box in the slot, which would align with what I think Brent's ideal usage would be. I don't think he's just a corner. I think you can play him some at box backer. You can play him some at safety. So if they want a guy who's versatile and huge, he would probably be my choice there.
Wow.
My sleeper corner is not any of those guys. And he's about half the height of, the guys we're talking about. But I love him.
Who's your sleeper guy?
My guy is, and he just changed his name, I guess. So I want to get this right. It was Travius Hodges Tomlinson. He is the nephew of LaDainian Tomlinson. He has now changed his name to just Trey Tomlinson. So let's talk about him. 5'8", first percentile among cornerbacks in draft classes since 1999. 178 pounds, fifth percentile. Only Julius Brents had a higher average depth of target among draftable cornerbacks in 2022 than Hodges Tomlinson's 16.6. And he tied with Miami's Tyreek Stevenson, another guy who's very Seahawk-y, for the lowest deserved catch rate at 52%. His work against deep passes makes me think I don't really care how big he is because he allowed 4 catches on 21 targets of 20 or more air yards for 109 yards, no touchdown, 1 pick, and an opponent passer rating of 9.1. Second lowest opponent passer rating on deep passes behind Witherspoon. And he can run everywhere. But what he does is really impressing. I want to get his height actually helps his movement skills because there's just less to deal with. He is a great tackler for his size. He can post up on guys who are 6 inches. His height, timing, his jump timing is really good. I don't know if he's a day 2 guy. He might be a mid day 3 guy because people look at the size and just go, ugh. But you watch the tape and it's, I'll say it again, Antoine Winfield Sr. Bills took him with the 23rd pick in the 98 draft. Things were different then. 5'9", 180, 14 NFL seasons, 3 Pro Bowls, success both outside and in the slot. And as the kids say today, he's got that dog in him a lot. So, just as far as the scheme, whatever, I don't know. I don't know if the Seahawks look at him and go, I don't know. Can he drive the injury thing? We're not going to put him on the field at that height. But I think he has a lot of he's the guy I most enjoyed watching of all the cornerbacks I did. So that's my sleeper guy.
5'7" and 178 with 29-inch arms. Yeah, that is a small dude. But
he's 5'8". Let's give him the inch. Come on.
Well, I was looking. Shout out to Dan Brugler. I was looking at his beast draft.
Oh, okay.
Guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
which I have that up. I'm like, that is a must every year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 4.4 speed, though. I mean, like the Duke. Yeah. That 18 passes defense. Wow. Now I'm looking at his profile right now. That's
1.5 10-yard split. He's quick as hell in short spaces. Wow. I think he'd be an outstanding slot defender, and you can play him outside.
That's what I was thinking. He can compete at nickelback for the Seahawks alongside Kobe Bryant, who Mike is thinking maybe he should go back outside.
Let's say they run these 3 Let's say they run some dime nickel or a dime, like big dime, 3 safeties. Run some dime. Get him in there.
Oh, wow. This guy's I didn't realize he was the Jim Thorpe winner. That would be back-to-back years taking the Jim Thorpe winner.
Well, at that point, the Seahawks might do it, huh, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, especially on day 3, if you can get a guy who was whatever the award is, whether it's the running back award, last name Walker, I can't remember the first name on that one, but you got the running back award for the nation's best back, if you're the best line, like any of those, like you were the best, insert here. If I'm getting you on day 3, like there's obviously traits I can work. Yeah. Doesn't mean doesn't mean you'll be a good guy in the league, but like there's something there. Like Kobe Bryant clearly had the traits last year as the Jim Thorpe Award winner. Like
it's kind of like how Schneider loves to take guys who were drafted really, really high by other teams. It's like, let's see if there's anything on the bone.
Yes, that's correct. Cool. Yeah, I think John and Pete have signed not literally. They have signed almost every player from the 2013 first round. Of that draft. They've just like, we're going to get everybody that played in the top 10. There's got to be something there.
There's got to be something, and usually there isn't, but
yeah, the answer was there was nothing there. I think that includes, see how many guys I can get off the top of my head before we move on. I think Barkevius Mingo's in that. Deion Jordan, Luke Jokel.
Yep.
There's a lineman in there as well. Chance Warmack?
Maybe? I think he was, yeah.
I'm missing one more. But basically, they just tried to get every guy they possibly could.
I remember seeing. I was out at a practice when they had Warmack on the field. I remember that.
Yeah, they've just tried. John was like, "Yeah, we didn't have a first round pick that year. We traded it for Percy or whatever it was. But we are going to draft. We're going to at one point have every guy who played in the top 10 of that draft class that turned out to be really, really bad.
Yep, very bad.
I'm interested. Now I'm going to try to dig up some.
Best quarterback in that draft class is now in Seattle.
That's right. Wow. That is Gino's class.
It was like the only two quarterbacks who are still in the league are him and Mike Glennon.
Oof. Wow. I'm gonna pull up that. We can go to the next topic, but I'm gonna pull up that class here while you.
Mike, earlier on we were gonna go some Clemson homies, but considering the fact that he brought up the DBs, we just went cornerback. Do you want to go with your Clemson boys now, or you want to?
Actually, yeah, we can do that. Hold on, pull up the 2013 NFL draft real quick. Ziggy Ansah. That's the one I forgot. So here are the top. Sorry, we're getting sidetracked, but this is just kind of funny. So here are the first 13 picks of the 2013 NFL draft.
Oh, this is I'm gonna have to make a face, aren't I?
Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel, Deion Jordan, Lane Johnson, Ziggy Ansah, Barkevius Mingo, Jonathan Cooper, Tavon Austin, D. Milner, Chance Warmack, DJ Fluker, DJ Hayden, and Sheldon Richardson. So of those 13 picks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys have been rostered by the Seahawks.
Lane Johnson is like has more value to his team than the other 12 guys combined.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, that's a terrible top 13.
Wow.
The Seahawks has signed half them damn dudes, over half.
That's fugly. Oof.
Yeah, that's pretty rough as a draft. And the whole rest of the draft, the first round wasn't much better. D-Hop's there, Xavier Rhodes is there, Desmond Trufant's there, Cordell Patterson's there, but it's not a very strong just first round in general. And then
if Cordell Patterson came out in the 2023 draft instead of the 2013 draft, it would be an entirely different story because I think we'd know what to do with him now.
Yes, I think Percy was already valuable, Percy Harvin that is, but like he also seems like a wish you got drafted a few years later candidate as
with a personality transplant, perhaps.
Yes, that is well. That is thank you for adding that.
That was like come to my house and punch me in the face.
Chris is right. There's a couple guys who are first round guys in this class that we haven't kind of talked about, even though we talked about their position groups. One at edge, one at defensive tackle. That's Myles Murphy and Bryan Bresee, both from Clemson.
Yep.
I'm gonna start with Myles, who's probably going to be a top 15 guy. We haven't brought him up much there in the course of our pre-draft process. With his measurements and his skill set, could you see him if he's a top 15 guy somewhere to the Seahawks? However that happens, being an immediate impact player in a 3-4 defense.
Yes, he was when we talk 3-4. I think the modern version is the closest thing I can think of is like the old Wade Phillips 5-2, where you had the big ends, the light nose tackle, and your edge guys were just 240-pound edge backers. And this goes back to the Jimmy Johnson fronts, right? So it's really more of a 5-2 than a 3-4 where you have the two linebackers patrolling. It's really not that. It's more of a pass rush. It's what the Eagles used all year. The Patriots are doing more bear. The Seahawks do some of it. I think they want to do more. Murphy was my number 3 edge behind, depending on whether we're talking about this year or next year, Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson or Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson. He was my third guy, 6'4", almost 6'5", 268. Speed of the pocket for a player his size. There's nothing hybrid about how well he accelerates when he's working the arc. He has a strength and technique to go through multiple lockers to get home. He had the only broken missed tackles percentage rate 5%, lowest among all edge rushers in the 2023 class. So when he gets there, he usually gets the ball, to the ball, to the guys that plays over. And with these hybrid guys, he's got hybrid size and he had worked inside and outside. Is he just like we were talking about Lucas Van Ness off camera from Iowa, who I'm not a huge fan of because really it's just speed to power and long arm, and that's pretty much it. Murphy has some bend. He's got some flexibility. He's got an inside counter. So he can make things happen on the edge. And if you're running those 5-2 fronts, whether you want to attribute them to Bum Phillips or Wade Phillips or Jimmy Johnson or Jonathan Gannon or whoever, he can play at least 4 different gaps in those 5-man fronts, and he can do it credibly.
Wow.
They didn't have him inside the tackles a lot, but I think he can do that more. He's got a good bull rush. He's got a finishing kick. And he, as a run defender, speed and strength are transferable to the NFL right now. Plug him in and go. I do think he plays high too much. He will lose leverage there, but that's fairly easily fixable. And he needs more hand technique. But I could say that about 95% of the defensive linemen in college I watch, because I say this over and over, it's not taught in college. It's just big guy, move through offensive linemen, go get quarterback. So my comp for him was Rashawn Gary, who came out of Michigan and took him about a year to get it together. Like, where am I playing? What am I doing? And then it hit, and he was great. So I think he'd be. Would I take him at 20? I mean, I think. Well, maybe. I'm kind of I'm fixated on the idea of Jalen Carter, and if he's not there, get the best cornerback. So then you're going to 20, and like if you don't get Jalen Carter, you get one of the best corners, and someone's like at 20, I might go Cansey just because he's a Tasmanian. My comp for him should be the Tasmanian Devil. He's just crazy. But we were talking about boring. Murphy's kind of boring in a good sense. He just does a lot of stuff well. So if they took him at 20, I could see it. It wouldn't drive me nuts. There's another guy, though, who, if they don't get Carter and he's there at 20, I would like even better. Another Clemson guy, and that's Bryan Bresee. A lot of injury issues, but boy, almost 6'6", 298. So he is more of a penetrating, one gap, kick your ass right off the snap. His pressure rate of 12% ranked him third in the class among interior defensive linemen, behind only Carter and Cansey. He creates an insane amount of quick pressure. He gets to the ball so fast. And, when you're 6'6" and less than 300 pounds, you kind of want that. As a run defender, he's not powerful, but he, again, insanely quick. A lot of tackles for loss. Hand movement is, I guess, maybe, and Darnell Wright kind of kicked his ass on this, Tennessee right tackle, who's really good. He was my OT1. And I think if you put maybe 10 pounds on him, give him a few protein shakes in the VMAC room. I said he would fit like a proverbial glove in any front in need of one gap disruptors to go 100 miles an hour on every play and can do so from any gap. Bit of a project, but advances hand work, pure power, next level coaching, and weight work. He might have a few all-pro nods in his future. And I compared him to one of my favorite players of his era when he played, and that's Darnell Dockett. Darnell Dockett came to the field with lead in his pants, and he would just F people up. And I think Bresee has that same sort of temperament and on-field ability. He's not Jalen Carter, but he's nothing to sneeze at either. If you don't get Carter, you take the best cornerback available at 5, you get Bresee at 20, you're cooking with gas. I love Bresee. He's great.
Let's spin it and look at the running back room. Because right now, the Seahawks, they only got 2 running backs after cutting Darwin Thompson. That's Kenneth Walker III and DJ Dallas. So with all that being said, they are definitely taking a running back in this draft. It just depends on where. And are you the type of guy that says, don't take a running back round 1, especially in the context of Bijan Robinson?
If I know the Broncos got Javonte Williams out of North Carolina early in the second round, I would have taken him without hesitation in the mid to low first round.
Oh, wow.
Because he's Nick Chubb. I mean, you take him. Bijan Robinson broke 104 tackles last year.
That's insane. That
is the most, and that's per PFF, and that's the most. And his broken and missed tackle rate is almost 40%. 40% of his runs over 3 years resulted in at least one blown or missed defensive tackle. That is so. His single season total of blown tackles forced is the highest ever in PFF, which I think goes back to 2006. And the rate of missed tackles forced over 3 years of almost 40% goes back to 2014 is also the highest. He can run routes like a slot receiver. He's kind of, I've heard Saquon, I think he's a more powerful runner. But receiving wise, he has kind of Le'Veon Bell potential. but in this just jacked up contact balance is insane. Lateral movement is ridiculous. There's a part of me that would love for the Seahawks to take Saquon Barkley at 5 just to see everyone's head explode, and Twitter would be down for the next year. What I've said about Bijan Robinson is that you don't get him in the second round, and he doesn't come along every year. So when he comes around, I've had him as high as the Lions with their second pick.
That's I think that's pick 18, I believe.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me at all if someone took, because it's going to get to about that, right in the middle of the first round. It's sort of Damocles where you're like, who's going to do it? And then someone's going to do it. And he'll, pretty much define your offense for the next 4 years. And all the snotty people on Twitter can just go suck it because he's that good. But no, I don't really have absolutes when it comes to my draft philosophies. I don't tend to adhere to one specific thing, like, oh, you always do this or you never do this. Like, there's so many variables. Every player is different. Every team's different. There's we talk about odds, like the number of ways something can go on a roll of the dice. There's just so many variables. I don't only a Sith deals in absolutes. So that's not me.
Okay. All right. So Bijan at 20, Chris. That's what I heard. Is that what you heard?
Bijan at 5.
We can't do that, Doug.
No, we can't.
We can't have them take Bijan.
Okay, that's fine. Bijan at 3. All right. How about this? The Texans pass on C.J. Stroud. They already have Damian Pierce. They take Bijan Robinson anyway. Boom.
Oh man.
The Panthers. The Panthers moved up to 1 to take a running back.
Now that would be very 1998.
Yes.
Of them to do.
Yep. He'd have to come out in dreads though with Mike Ditka.
The problem with the Seahawks taking Bijan at 5, well, there's several, but the main one is that the VMAC address is public. Like you can Google it, right?
Yes.
So like people would know where to bring their pitchforks, and it's a very accessible venue.
It is a security door, but it's not really, they got a guy there, but he's not.
The problem is it's one guy. He ain't on.
And he's not flexing.
Yeah, if 17 people show up with running backs don't matter t-shirts and pitchforks, that dude at the security gate is going to fold. Yeah. I know he is. I know. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the many problems.
But and Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama, I would say, are 2 running backs with first round skills, regardless of how you estimate. And some people will say, don't ever I don't care if Jim Brown comes back and combines himself with Barry Sanders somehow, never in the first round. Well, okay, fine. I'll be over here, Mr. Hypothetical GM. I'll take him and, I'll beat your team every year and you can wonder what happened when you get fired.
Yeah, the first round, we don't have to spend a whole podcast on it, although we could if they take him we'd have to if they took him at 5.
You guys would, you would then be the running backs actually do matter site.
Yeah, the interesting there's so many layers to the take a running back in the first round conversation, though one thing that there's a disconnect in how much people value maxing, like just being good as shit on your first contract versus being a position that's worth giving a second contract. And there's a bunch of different ways to go on it. Like Saquon was kicked ass on his first contract. So did Josh Jacobs and so did Christian McCaffrey. Whether they're worth extending for a second one, and Dalvin Cook, same way, Chubb, that's where the conversation gets different. Because if your goal is to just get a guy who in his 4-year contract will kick ass, sure.
Well, what's wrong with getting a guy who kicks ass for 4 years? You don't have to re-sign into that big deal. You just go get another guy who kicks ass. Right. You have 4 years to get the next guy. What's wrong with that? Roll it over.
Yes, that's where the disconnect, because then some people, and I subscribe to this depending on the position as well. Like I do, depending on where I take you, I would like to get a second contract out of you. Like if I take you in the top 10, for example, I would like you to be a guy that I'm going to then get some value out of as well in my second contract.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
The Rams took Jared Goff, I believe, first overall in that draft in 2016. They gave him that extension because they thought they had to. Like, if we don't do this, we'll be embarrassed. And what happened? And even they gave the extension, they got embarrassed.
Correct, and then had to unload them.
My point is, you don't do these things just because you think you have to, or the other GMs will laugh at you at the league meetings and you won't get your eggs cooked the right way. That's not. you have to balance a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and even someone like Jordan Brooks or LJ Collier, I would like them to have. Well, we don't know this with Jordan yet, but like just be a guy that like we should keep you in the second contract. Like if we can't afford to, like a Golden Tate situation, that's okay too. Golden was still good value. I think he was.
And Golden went to Detroit and caught like 500 balls a year because they throw the ball. So okay, yeah, he's that guy. You know, Collier to me did not have NFL transferable skills. I had a lot of questions about Brooks, still do. But whatever.
There's some guys. So I'm very similar to corner, running back to corner this year, as I am just like I'm not a big round one guy again because of all the other needs that they have, including wide receiver 3. If they're gonna take someone on offense,
yeah.
But there's some day 2 guys that I'm willing to stand on the table for if they just are insistent on doing that. 2 of them are Zach Evans at Ole Miss,
and
then Tajay Spears from Tulane. How do you? Okay, we're getting the claps on Spears. Is that the guy between the 2 of those guys?
Exo Sports, who is training him. I through some connections got to watch like Quentin Johnston and Spears and a bunch of other guys train in the lower ballroom of the Omni Severin Hotel in Indianapolis, like final combine prep. Ran into Spears' agent, and one of the guys at Exo says, yeah, Doug is this huge Spears guy. And he said, well, do you want to talk to him? Like, yeah, actually, I've got some plays in my folder. Can I watch tape with him? And Spears is like, yeah, we can do that. So it was the first time I watched tape with a lot of guys. It's the first time I've ever watched tape on my phone in a hotel ballroom with a player, a draft prospect. He is incredible. He is a smaller, shifty guy who plays much bigger than his size. So yeah, I'm a big fan. You mentioned Zach Evans. It's interesting because my most obvious comp for him would be Melvin Gordon, and my comp for Ken Walker was Melvin Gordon. They're a bit. I mean, he's a slasher. He's great lateral quickness and get downfield. So they're similar traits. If they want another one of those lighter guys who can just zoom and off you go, yes. Tajay Spears is a broken tackle machine. Just he's so much fun to watch. He's the next muscle hamster. So if they took him I've done a bunch of 3-round mocks. I've mocked Spears to Seattle in 2 of them in the 3rd round. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Love it. I love it.
Because he's not only is he a running back, but he's one of those like freak athletes, which they also love. And they love to take guys or trade for guys. And then once they get him in the building, we have to figure out what we're going to do with him, right? Okay, let's start that now. So I think he'd fit well.
Fitting well. Who is the sleeper in this running back class, Doug? Who's the guy that everyone's sleep on that you're like, you know what? He's probably going to pop.
Well, it's not anyone's fault that Roshan Johnson from Texas did not get more reps because he was playing behind Bijan Robinson. But Johnson, who, by the way, was born in Port Arthur, Texas, the birthplace of both Jimmy Johnson and Janis Joplin, forced 46 missed tackles in the 2022 season on 108 touches.
Damn.
Yeah. Just going to go through 6'2", 223. Very quick. His longest run. Yeah, he had a 52-yard touchdown against Okie State, which was just no one could catch him. And he can force missed tackles by running over you or running around you. Really nice foot movement. He really, I mean, the contact balance, the recovery after a hit, and just get the elbow in and go, especially Oklahoma's defense did not have a pleasant experience there. So I think had he played elsewhere, we'd be talking about him as a top 5 back in this class.
Wow.
So he's only a sleeper because he was behind, the best running back we've seen maybe in the last 5 years. We don't know, but close. So yeah, John, he is a guy who really, he just needs a chance.
Wow.
Seahawks, give him a chance. What do you say?
Give him a chance.
I mean,
he'd be a nice sort of change of pace for Walker, had some dings last year. I don't want him getting 300 carries a year. I don't know that I want any running back getting 300 carries a year. So you can get another guy who can do similar things somewhat, different things somewhat. Yeah, I would like that.
And this dude,
I would like, I would pay money to go watch Tyjae Spears with the Seahawks. And just the look on Pete Carroll's face when he does something crazy.
Roschon Johnson, by the way, 6 foot 225
Yeah.
at his pro day. That is a tank.
Yeah, he is a tank. He's a fast tank. He's a tank with Ferrari wheels.
Woo!
Woo!
Sign me. I need someone with that type of speed and power combo, or just like speed and elusiveness combo. If I'm gonna take you within the first,
yeah, he's elusive, he's powerful, and he can just house your ass. If he gets past you, you're probably not going to catch up to him.
Yeah, see, I like that with the day two guys.
I mean, in small sample sizes, you didn't see a lot of drop off in Texas's offense between him and Bijan Robinson. So I'm not saying he is, because that's, again, Bijan is a completely different level of guy, but it's not too far off.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's not a seventh round Rudy who was just lucky to get in there once in a while. Like, if Bijan's going to take a breather, let's just flop down and do whatever. He's a legit back. He's a legit prospect. I would say late second day to early third day.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that as the sweet spot.
Well, let's say mid third round. I would say that the bidding probably starts at the mid third round, just because some people won't know as much about him, but a couple smart guys will be like,
he's still available.
Let's go get him.
Yeah, some of these guys are definitely, that, and not just at running back, just at all these positions, particularly with some of these corners we talked about. You just know there's going to be DB coaches just begging for some of their guys to, like Witherspoon. Devon Witherspoon seems like a guy that most cornerback secondary coaches are just going to be like begging, like, dude, do you see him coming downhill and hitting the shit out of dudes?
Yep.
Give me that, because that's always the.
And then 180-pound guy like a Cooper Kupp is running a stutter go, and he can't shake Witherspoon. That seems important to me, given the fact that there's a lot more slot snaps these days. Well, there's a lot of good talent at the top of this class, but I think it's more wide than it is tall. By wide, I mean it starts at the end of the first round and goes to about the fourth or fifth. Just a boatload of talent. Huge stopgap of guys. So, the more picks you have right now, I think the better off you are for just, adhering more talent to your team. And, of course, there's Snyder going, I want to trade down, please, because he does.
Yeah, he does. He probably doesn't have, actually, not probably, I'm pretty certain he does not have, John Snyder, that is, 20 first-round grades on prospects. So
I don't know that there are 20 first-round grades in this class.
Yeah, I think
if he doesn't, I would say that there are good reasons for that.
Yeah, I think the most he's had, I can't remember the exact. It's somewhere between 18 and not between 18 and 19. There are no numbers between 18 and 19. It's 18 or 19.
Okay, let's say quarterback. I would not have a first round grade on Anthony Richardson. I would have about a third or fourth round grade on Will Levis. Those guys are both quarterbacks. They're both going in the first round. Mm-hmm. So first round grade versus first round pick positionally.
Yeah, so I think pick 20 is going to be kind of interesting on who they have first, because I think, like you mentioned, first round grade versus being drafted in the first round does not always match. So they could get a guy fall to them who they have a first round grade on. Maybe he's one of 15 guys they have first round grades on, but he falls to 20 because of some guys get pushed up boards because of positional value, things like that, where they end up
cornerback and receiver are classes this year where you could have 5 or 6 or 7 of that position go in the first round, and there's still guys in the second round where other teams are going to be trading up to get them. They're so deep. Those two classes are just the tight end class. It's the deepest tight end class in years. Comparatively, this year, if you need a corner or a wide receiver, step up to the bar, because here we go. Those are the two best positional classes or positional groups to me in this class.
Yeah, and the Seahawks are in a good spot. They need stuff that you don't need premium picks for, which is a good. That's a good spot to be in when you aren't in desperate need of a receiver, aren't in desperate need of a corner, you aren't in desperate need of a tackle off left or right or edge. They don't have desperate needs at those. Even desperate need at quarterback. They could take any of those things, but the desperate need is not there. Whereas, like you said, after anywhere from pick 20 to like pick 100, you can get some starters at some pretty.
In this, and it isn't always true, but in this class, if you're whiffing on more than one pick from 20 to 100, you should probably go look for work. It's just there's a lot of stuff, a lot of talent.
Oh yeah, no, this is a.
By the way, if they take a quarterback, I'd love to say Hendon Hooker, because my comp for him is Geno Smith.
Oh wow.
Oh, you're a Hooker guy.
Totally.
We should close on that. Why are you?
Hooker is my
QB.
He's my QB4. It's Stroud. I spoil this. Stroud, Young, Richardson, because the traits are just we've never seen this before. He's built like Khalil Mack. He runs like Michael Vick. He throws like Randall Cunningham. So I don't care that he's only 1 year as a starter. Hooker's 4, Levis is 5. And the only reason Levis is 5 is because there isn't a really good 6. I'm not a Levis guy at all. Hooker, and one of his big debits, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, wrote about it a couple weeks ago. The massively horizontal spread veer offense, and it's not transferable to the NFL. Well, yes and no. Chiefs and Bills and Eagles and other teams use a lot of those elements. I asked Hooker at the combine because I thought, okay, they're going to ask him how well he can fit into an NFL scheme. But I asked him, like, so are those NFL coaches asking you about Josh Heupel's offense? Like, what can we bogart from this? Like, when you did this here and you had these 3 receivers here, how did you do that? Because I could see, as well as Hooker ran that offense, NFL coaches saying, we're not going to draft you, but we got 15 minutes. So let's talk ball. Let's figure out how we can steal some of that stuff. I don't think his offense is transferable to the NFL. His skill set is good deep passer, good runner. He's above average just about everything. He's not spectacular, but I don't think Geno is spectacular. I think Geno is very, very good, and that's fine.
Okay.
I think that's a good way to categorize the split that people have on Hooker. Some people have him really high, some people have him really low, and it's whether you feel because the offense, I think everyone kind of agrees, you ain't running that shit in the pros. That's just kind of not how it is. But the things that
if you're the Chiefs, you're going to run it in a more compressed space because the field is narrower. Yeah. But if you're the Bills, you're going to run it in a more compressed. The Bengals do some of that stuff. I mean, the Dolphins do a lot of that stuff. The Dolphins are a freaking track meet on the field. There are elements of what Mike McDaniel runs that are very much like what Tennessee runs. So don't tell me that spread isn't completely transferable, and don't throw the guy out because you played that offense. You got to look at, you got to separate this from that.
All right. So we got Chris Bijan at 20. We got Hendon Hooker with 37. This is
there you go.
Yeah. Wow. They better take Jalen Carter at 5 then with that.
They better. Well, They better get a cornerback too.
You're not a Michael Jackson guy?
They need. I think in today's NFL, you need 2 dominant corners.
Nothing wrong with that.
Dominant, like shut down.
Well,
and if you don't have at least one, it's going to get worse for you.
Shout out to Reed.
They got at least one.
Yeah, they got one. Michael Jackson's fine. You also need guys who can rotate in, and someone gets hurt, and it's why the Eagles went and slaying Bradbury, brought them both back.
Ooh, nasty combo.
Yeah. That's why the Lions went out and got all those guys, and they should still draft a corner. I don't think you can have enough corners right now.
Chris, we got anything else before we get Doug out of here?
No, man, that was it, man. Thank you so much, Doug. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's some great stuff. If they take Bijan at 20, it's your fault. Just throwing that out there.
Awesome.
That is, I'm just
do not print my home address. I'm not the VMAC. They're coming after me. Like the West Seattle Farmers Market. You.
Doug, before we let you go, do you got anything you want to plug? Any mocks, any features, any film stuff coming out on USA Today you want to plug?
Mocks, features, doing my positional list, which combine tape, advanced metrics, all kinds of analysis, pro comps, some biographical information from team sites, and a little bit from the Beast. Because I think that Dane's biographical stuff that he puts together is my favorite part of the Beast. It's tremendously impressive. He tells great stories with that. So we're doing those positional lists all the way through. I have my top 50 prospects up, which it'll come in about 30,000 words. That'll be a Thursday, I believe. Yeah. Not a lot of sleep, but that's not, par for the course. You guys know.
Oh,
So, yeah. Keep it tuned to touchdownwire.usatoday.com, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Oh, and I have a new podcast with Greg Cosell called The X's and O's, which
I'll be listening to that later today, actually.
we're doing our second episode tomorrow morning, and it'll be out tomorrow afternoon. And that's
there it is.
I've known Greg for 15 years and been bugging people like, can we have him back? And so
Made it work.
It's starting again.
Perfect. Thank you, Doug. Thank you guys for tuning into the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. Shout out to Doug. Shout out to all of our pre-draft guests. This has been a haul. We've learned so much shit. I feel like I know more about the draft than fucking everyone because of all these experts that we've got. Thank you guys listening on Spotify, Apple, The Athletic. Tuning into our YouTube channel, Seahawks Man to Man on YouTube. Chris, take us out, please.
Thank you again, everybody, for rocking with us. We appreciate all the love and support. We will catch you guys next week as, oh my goodness,
the draft will be here next week.
The draft will be beginning next week. So we'll have a bunch going for you guys on that regard. And then we'll kick it with Dane Brugler. He'll join us to break down some of the prospects that the Seahawks take. And we'll go from there as we get ready for another season for Seahawks football. And on that note, we'll talk to you guys next week.